This week's Parsha is Parshas Tazria Metzora, and this week's video is sponsored L'il Nishmas Chana Liba Bas Rabbi Yaakov. The Parsha of Metzora is talking about someone who spoke Lashon Hara about somebody else, and is therefore punished with tzaras, with leprosy. And after he's finally healed, after the whole ordeal, he comes before the Kohen and has to bring a carbon. The carbon is made up of shtei tziporim, 2 birds, and one of them is slaughtered as a carbon in front of Hashem, and the other one goes scot-free, gets to fly away. And the question is, first of all, why do we use 2 birds, not anything else? And second of all, why does one get to go free while one is brought up as a carbon? So the Apirian Al-Torah answers that a Metzora is someone that spoke Lashon Hara. It was constantly chirping about somebody else. So therefore we use the birds that are always chirping as reminiscent of this Aveira that he did. And the reason why one gets to fly away is because if we bring up both birds that are chirping onto the Mizbeach as a carbon in front of Hashem, we would think that talking is asur. Just like this Metzora was talking about somebody else and we're saying both karbanos go up to Hashem, that it's completely slaughtered, we would think you're not allowed to talk. It's off limits. So we let one fly away to say, yes, you're allowed to talk sometimes, but when it's productive, when it's for Torah, when it's for tefillah, when you're davening, when you're learning, when you have to make parnasa, when you're creating a relationship with a husband and wife, with your children, yes, then talking is permitted and even wanted. But stam talking, narishkeit, just chirping away, that is what is asur, and that is what the Metzora was punished for. There's another time that this happens, that one is geshachten and one goes free, and one is sent away. And that is by the avodah of Yom Kippur, where the Kohen Gadol brings 2 seirim, 2 goats. One is brought up as a carbon in front of Hashem, and the other is sent away to Azazel, which is thrown down a rocky mountain. And there it's brought al yedei goyrel. A lottery decides which animal goes to Azazel and which goes to Hashem. And the question is, why by a Metzora, by the 2 birds, does the Kohen get to pick which one goes free and which one gets brought up as a carbon? But by the Azazel, it's a goyrel, it's a lottery, which means Hashem is choosing which one goes as a carbon and which one is sent away to Azazel. Says Reb Zalman Sorotzkin in his Sefer Haznayim LaTorah that we think sometimes that Olam Hazeh is the Iker. That this is the main thing, this is the world we're living in. And the difference between the Azazel and the Metzora is that the Metzora is giving a bird, the Kohen is giving the bird a chance whether to live or to die. But by the Azazel, they're both dying. Both are being slaughtered. One is going up as a carbon to Hashem, one is being thrown down a rocky mountain. So the difference between death and death is much more important than the difference between life and death. Why? Because if you're gonna think that Olam Hazeh is everything, that whether you live or you die in this world is important, that the Kohen could pick, it's not as important. But what's important that Hashem has to pick himself is whether it's this type of death or this type of death. Whether you're going up as a carbon to Hashem to be Mekadei Shem Shemayim, or you're going out to Azazel, which is the sign of Chilul Hashem. What type of person are you going to be in this world? Are you going to chirp like the Metzora and talk about nonsense and Lashon Hara in this world? Or are you going to choose to uplift your words to an Olam Haba Dikazach and take your words and bring them for Torah and Tefillah and choose to make a Kiddush Hashem, which is so much more important that Hashem has to be the one to pick which one goes to Azazel and which one goes as a carbon to Hashem. We should talk about to view Olam Haba as something that's so important to us that that's the choice we have to make. We should talk about to Chaye Olam Haba L'Netzach Netzachim. Have a beautiful Shabbos.